Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, we are back with another episode of Under Review, episode 152. Nick, how are we doing today?
We're doing good. We are doing good. Inching our way to that 3-year mark, having not missed a single week, one episode a week. We have made our way quite gracefully. It definitely does not feel like 3 years, but it's about a month away from 3 years.
Well, unfortunately, we're going to have to take Christmas week and New Year's week off, right, Nick? Nope, because we don't take any weeks off, and it doesn't matter what holidays are on that week. So, this is just what we do because we love the grind and we love the game.
Dedicated to the sport, that's for sure.
We are, and so this episode is going to be a college football episode because we obviously don't address a whole lot of in-season college football stuff going on because we're more NFL focused. But with the 12-team bracket, the first ever 12-team bracket being released, we got to talk about it. It's big news. It's been a big year for college football and college sports in general. The landscape is changing a lot very quickly in college sports. So that's what we're going to be talking about this week. I'll start us off with the stat of the week brought to you by our sponsor, Andrews Logistics. This is actually about baseball because I would be an awful Rangers fan if I didn't bring you the news that Tuesday night, Nathan Eovaldi has re-signed with the Texas Rangers on a 3-year, $75 million deal. It is good to have him back. He is a staple in the locker room.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, he was a huge portion or part in that success we had in the 2023 season. So, we're looking to run it back. Hopefully, a little bit of an off year last year. Too many injuries, people just not having good years. But if everyone plays to their true potential, this upcoming season, we've got big things inbound, that's for sure. So, be looking out for that one. Your player of the week, it was kind of a tussle between two people. You have Jamar Chase and Sam Darnold. I went with the comeback player of the year, Sam Darnold. I'm just going to go ahead and say that's who wins it. 347 yards, 5 touchdowns for Sammy D as he makes his resurgence in Minnesota as they beat Atlanta 42-21. It was tied 21-21 going into the fourth, and he said, let me take care of this game real quick, and they just slapped him in the face in the fourth quarter as Sam Darnold threw 5 touchdowns to win that game for Minnesota. Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, all cooking.
Yeah, it was a great game for Minnesota and a great game for Sam Darnold. Kind of on the other side of the field, the last 4 games, Kirk has thrown 0 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. So Minnesota is happy with where they're at and with who their quarterback is. And I think the fans still have love for Kirk, but it was definitely time for a change in Minnesota. They remain 1 game back from the Lions for that, honestly, for the number 1 seed in the NFC and also first in their division. So it'll be interesting to see how that comes down to the stretch. But Sam Darnold playing some good football right now, along with Vikings defense and the rest of the offense. They're a scary team right now, and we are rooting for them because we love Sam Darnold. But let's get into it. So college football bracket was released this last Saturday. Obviously, A&M was not in it because they just kind of blew it at the end of the season. We're not going to get into that, but we had a shot and we missed that shot, and that's just how it played out. But so how the college football playoff bracket works, before we dive into it, is the top 4 Power 5 conference champions get the first 4 seeds and a bye in the first round. Then, however, the committee decides 5 through 8, those teams host a playoff game at home. First ever time this has been done in college football, versus the 9 through 12 teams, respectively. And so let's dive into it. Nick, thoughts on the bracket?
Well, obviously, you got a lot of people upset. certain people of certain fan bases and certain ideas were definitely shaken. So obviously the big one was Alabama not getting in despite being a 3-loss team, 9-3. The big thing there was their 2 losses to 2 6-6 schools. Obviously, I understand all of the wins, but those losses were just so atrocious. And people were saying that they should have gotten in over SMU, but SMU was really only a 1-loss team. Obviously, their record shows 2 losses, but one of those was in the extra game that they played in their conference championship. And in those 2 losses, they came to 2 10-win teams. And if you combine the margin of loss, they only lost by 6 points combined in those games. So I think they definitely got it right there. Obviously, it's the first year, so they might not have it completely ironed out the way that it's going
Oh
to,
yeah.
please the most people. But I definitely do like seeing a little bit more of a true playoff feel, because it never really felt like playoffs when it was only 4 teams that they were just picking out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I do like having more teams because it creates more opportunity, and people are, talking about how I guess they don't feel like a team like Boise State should be gifted a first round bye, or how there's going to be a lot of these games that aren't going to be close. Like a lot of people are talking about Texas and Clemson, but we're kind of just ignoring the fact that upsets are a regular thing that happen in college football every single week of the season. So nothing's given. Obviously, even though you're the number 5 seed and you're playing the 12 seed, nothing is guaranteed. You still have to go out there and play 4 great quarters of football, and go and get the job done.
Yeah, I'm excited. This will be good. I also agree that it needs to not just be 4 teams, because it is the same 4 teams every year. But they moved it to 12, and surprise, surprise, people are still upset with how they seeded everything, who got where, people that are in, people that are out. I'm going to say this, and it's something me and Nick have been saying for a long time. The reason that professional sports work so well is because they have divisions and they have conferences, and the winner of those divisions and conferences go to the playoffs. And then after that, it's based on record. There's tiebreakers. It's set. Who's making it in the playoffs. The reason that there's an issue in college football, which it's in every college sport, obviously, but we're talking college football, is there does not need to be a committee that decides these things. And because in the end, do you really control your own destiny? Maybe if you go undefeated in the SEC, you win these conferences, you control your own destiny. But what I think, and it'd be hard to do, but what needs to happen is there needs to be some kind of restructuring, because with this bracket and kind of with Bama being out, what people are saying is like, oh, Bama had a harder strength of schedule than SMU, which is true because Bama is in the SEC and they scheduled some hard non-conference games. So now people are saying all these people need to schedule, like these schools need to schedule easy non-conference games for just like some cupcake wins that they can have on their schedule, because SMU didn't have a hard schedule. So now you're going to be seeing all the, we're not going to be getting good football for the first 3-4 weeks of the season because everyone's going to be playing D2, D3 schools. And I don't know what you think about that, but the strength of schedule thing is going to become a problem.
But for a team like Bama, 2 of their 3 losses were against their, I'm using air quotes here, their cupcake opponents, because they lost to Vanderbilt, who kind of fizzled out there at the end. And then same thing with OU, really did nothing at all the entire season. And so, that kind of has to be taken into account. That was kind of what I was talking about with, evaluating 2 of their 3 losses. But at the end of the day, when you have 5,000 college teams,
it's tough to
some fan base somewhere is going to feel snubbed, and that's just kind of how it ends up every single year. And this year they opened it up to 12, and you still have the exact same thing of people feeling like they were snubbed. But the one thing I do like about this is that winning your conference actually means something, which I think is good, because before, when you would have 4 teams in the playoff, and 5 Power 5 conferences. Surprise, surprise, that wasn't going to work because you have 5 division winners or conference winners, and only 4 teams get in. So I do like that winning your conference actually means something today. And also, I do think it's good for the sport to have home college playoff games just because
Yeah.
the atmosphere is unbeatable. And so I think that is actually a good thing for college sports.
I don't understand why the semis are not, or sorry, not the semis, but the quarterfinals are not at home either. A lot of people have a problem with that. Like if you're going to make the round 1 at home, then round 2, the top 4 seeds need a home game. Like they earned it for being the top 4. I think they'll change that because a lot of people have been saying that. Like the big thing is the bowl games, and so like a lot of money and money, but just move the bowl game to their home stadium and then call it the bowl game. The money will still flow.
I guess that's trying to keep it on brand with what they've been doing because it's just trying to keep it what it has been. I guess I do think they're eventually going to change that because I think it would be better to have the top 4 teams playing a home game, but then you could do a neutral site maybe for the
semis and the championship
or something. I don't know. That's just whatever.
Kind of like how the NFL does it. I think honestly, what I'm going to say, I think the biggest problem right now, and there's problem. I mean, this is the first year they got a lot of kinks they got to work out. You can't have Notre Dame being not in a conference anymore. So with this playoff, with the way it's set up, Notre Dame, they need to force them. They need to be like, either you don't have a shot at the playoff or you join a conference, because Notre Dame gets to schedule every single game they play during the season. They pick every single game. And I mean, they didn't schedule very many tough games this year if you look at the strength of their schedule. And I mean, they lost to FIU. That was their only loss. And honestly, that shouldn't have happened. And they should have been undefeated, which is what they scheduled it for. I think it'll become a problem because Notre Dame is every year undefeated. They look good because they play bad teams and they get to the playoff. I mean, this has been happening because they'll always put them in the 4-team playoff. No matter what, Notre Dame will be in the playoff because they bring a lot of money and viewership. They got a lot of fans. And so I just think they need to be in a conference. This is ridiculous that they're not in a conference.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like Joseph said, it's the same thing every year with them where they, have a good-looking regular season record just because of the teams they're playing. But then you see their true colors during the playoffs, and they've always kind of gotten a spot. But it just comes down to they need to be forced into a conference so that they can play conference games. They always get in just because of their name, and that was kind of also with the name. That was the argument that people were given for Bama, is that maybe they would have given a better they would have been a better 12 seed than SMU would have. But, I mean, if that's true or not, we're not going to know. You can definitely take a guess, but the thing is you didn't do what you needed to do in the regular season. You didn't take care of business week after week like you were supposed to and win all these games.
Yeah, I agree. All right, now that we've addressed kind of the whole bracket and the teams that were out and the teams, let's talk about the teams that are in, because we're not changing anything this year. The teams that are in. I don't know, like at first glance, what matchups you like? Who do you think has a real shot to win this thing?
Well, obviously, the Indiana Notre Dame, I think it'd be good, just because Notre Dame, like we just said, not actually good, and Indiana's kind of having the Cinderella season, just a off the cuff random good season for them.
Yeah.
So I think that could be potentially a good game. I guess technically an upset because it's the 10 playing the 7.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I kind of like SMU. Sneaky, just because they were supposed to be kind of down and out of it in that game against Clemson, but
They showed some real fight.
They didn't
Some
really
grit.
give in. It came down to the end of the game when they were kind of down big going into the fourth. And Penn State is kind of notorious for not winning big games, and this is
Yep.
obviously a huge game. But the only issue is that you're playing at Penn State, so that is a ridiculous atmosphere for college sports.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be – I think that'll be potentially a very good game.
Round one, I think the best storyline is Texas Clemson because obviously you've got Cade Klubnik, who's from Westlake Austin, coming back to play in Austin, as well as Klubnik and Quinn Ewers face each other in the state championships 2021.
Whatever their senior year was in high school.
Yeah,
Or
and,
I guess junior year for Quinn.
Yeah, and I think Klubnik, Westlake won. And beat Quinn Ewers, but there's some history there. But as much as I hate to say it, and it really does pain me to say it, Texas has a phenomenal defense, phenomenal front seven. These are NFL guys they got. I don't think Clemson. I think Texas has the easiest road to the semis in this playoff. I mean, Arizona State, like what they've done, they were voted to be last in the Big 12 this year, came out and won the Big 12. They're another Cinderella story like Indiana. Everybody's doubting them. They've got a great running back in Cam Skattebo, future Cowboy, fingers crossed. I think Texas has a pretty easy shot to the semis, though, because I don't think Arizona State's going to be able to stop them either. The biggest problem for Texas is their quarterback. Because he's being the difference in making these games close or not close. Unfortunately for Georgia, I'm pretty sure Carson Beck is out of the Sugar Bowl, is what I've been seeing with a UCL injury. So they're going to be on their backup. I don't know because if Carson Beck was playing, Georgia would be. It's gonna depend because Carson Beck hasn't been doing that good this season either. But we'll see.
Yeah, who knows? But well, that's the other thing too is they get to play the winner of Notre Dame, Indiana. So
yeah,
for a team like Georgia, that should not be a particularly tough game. But back to Texas, Clemson. I mean, if Texas was smart, they would start Arch Manning.
I agree, 100%.
Definitely.
Oh yeah,
more of a weapon. Quinn Ewers loves to throw interceptions in the red zone. That might be his favorite thing to do, other than throw touchdowns. And that's kind of proven to be a liability. That's what kind of killed them in the SEC championship against Georgia. Obviously, it doesn't matter for them because they get in anyway to the playoffs. But
that's what kept A&M in the game as well.
Quinn Ewers not necessarily got that clutch gene in him, unfortunately. No. I think Arch Manning has a higher ceiling, and he has proven to be a better weapon. But I think it's just the experience for Texas that they're choosing Quinn Ewers, and obviously he's older, seniority, whatever. But if they were smart, they would start Arch Manning.
I think Arch Manning's going to be the real deal whenever he finally gets his shot. And he's already shown some flashes of it, and it's going to stink because I don't like Texas. But I do like the Mannings, and I love just that bloodline. I mean, they're just natural-born greatness. And so I'm more looking at Arch's future in the NFL as a Cowboy and kind of thinking we could seriously win some Super Bowls if we draft him. I don't think we will draft him. I don't think we will because even if we could, Jerry wouldn't do it because he's not smart. But Arch Manning, I don't think Quinn Ewers is the guy right now. Another kind of interesting thing is Oregon's number one. They really haven't been getting a lot of love as a number one seed. Nobody seems to be really taking them that seriously as a number one seed. Tennessee, Ohio State, the winner of that game will play Oregon. Tennessee, Ohio State, number one, will probably be a pretty good game. Both teams have looked good all year. But whoever plays Oregon that next game, I think that'll also be a really good game.
Yeah, obviously Oregon undefeated, 13-0, and it's kind of, I don't want to say getting forgotten about, but it's just not getting as much attention as it normally would be. Obviously they're the only undefeated team right now, and they're sitting at number one. I do think that, obviously they look like the best team right now because they're the number one seed. So they're obviously the one seed for good reason, and they're 13-0 for good reason. Yeah. But I do think if it were to potentially be Ohio State, Oregon in that game, then I think it would be a good game to watch. But I do think Tennessee, Ohio State's going to be a good one. But we'll just be looking out for the semis or the quarterfinals.
If I had to pick a team that I really want to do good, I'm going to go with SMU just because nobody's taking SMU seriously right now. And I mean, if they beat Penn State, they could play
Hey,
Boise
we'll have the
State.
Pony Bowl.
Yeah. Boise State, SMU. Nobody's really taking Boise State seriously either because they're from the Mountain West, but you never know. I mean, it's one game and it's over. So, any team can get anybody at any given point. So, this will be an interesting play out. If it does happen to where teams like Arizona State, Boise State, SMU, these smaller schools, if they're just getting blown out, then the committee, like, that'll kind of show you, maybe these teams don't need to be ranked as high. We need to rethink who gets first round buys and stuff like that. This first year is really just going to show us what should happen in the future because obviously this is the guinea pig year.
Just a blueprint of how you fix college football because the 4-team playoffs was just never it. And we were very open about how that was just not a good way to go about it. I get that that's what they've been doing, but that was never the solution. But the other thing, too, is obviously in college football, you have upsets every single week. So, I mean, any given week, you got to still come out and play four quarters of good football to win. You never know. Those smaller teams could come out and who knows?
Yeah.
Boise State could win the whole thing.
If you want an opinion on how to solve the entire college football problem, it's make college football like the NFL, turn the conferences into divisions somehow, have them play all conference games, and if they're going to play non-conference games, have them play against the other Power 5 conferences and make that a mandate and don't allow them to pay schools to come get whooped by them. I mean, there's a whole way. It'd be complicated, it'd be tough, but the biggest problem that people have, they love it every year. They just love complaining about the committee. Take the committee away from it. The pro teams, they don't have committees deciding who goes where. Like, we know the playoff picture all season, and we know the playoff picture right now for the NFL based on records. And I think that's how it should be. They need to figure out a way to make it like that, but that would take a lot of work.
Directly affecting your record, but obviously, that comes first with dissolving the committee.
Yeah, it'd have to be a lot of stuff that goes into it, but that's what I would like to see at some point.
Who knows? Well, here's in our shows and under review, I brought you a quote from the Patrick Willis, and he said, "Trust that you can get back up and not give in ever."
Amen. Ain't that the truth? Thank y'all for tuning in this week. We will see you next week with another episode of Under Review.